prolific conservative commentator and working class lad from the north who's gay and a Tory, and so that's why people criticise him, not because he has continuously the worst takes you have ever seen. Darren Grimes recently tweeted something that I think we should talk about because it gained a lot of traction. Some people supporting him, some people criticising him very heavily. And this is what he said. He said, "I find lifeboat charity RNLI's rescue missions in the Channel to be deeply irresponsible. If you're sure that getting into an unseaworthy vessel will see you carried across the Channel by trained professionals, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try to hitch a ride to Britain? The kind and humane thing to do with the English Channel would be to turn back the boats and end the expectation that anyone can get to Britain illegally. Until that happens, nothing will change and lives will continue to be placed at risk. This will be the morally just response." So, what Darren is saying here is to kind of, just sweep all the bullshit aside, is that really the compassionate thing to do is to not help people who are refugees fleeing from France to the UK. Now usually what happens is they've come to other European countries from somewhere else that's more dangerous. Typically somewhere in the Middle East, but not always. And these people are sailing across the Channel to try and seek refuge and asylum in the UK. And Darren Grimes is saying we should not help them. RNLI is a brilliant charity that helps people who are in these, these dinghies, these tiny little lifeboat things that are incredibly unstable, incredibly unsafe. But that's the only method they have of getting to the UK, because it's quite difficult for them to quickly be able to get to the country legally. So what he's saying is, just don't help them, right? Don't help them, and because that is encouraging more people to come and therefore putting more lives at risk. But what he doesn't seem to get, Darren, bless him, is that people will die without RNLI's help. They will die. People will drown. People who are fleeing from war and persecution, from famine, from disease, all kinds of horrible things. People who are searching for a better life, people who are desperate, people who just want their families to be safe. Do this thing, which yes, is very dangerous, and yes, technically illegal, but they do it because they are, like I said, they are in dire need, they are really desperate, and so they come across in search of a better life, in search of safety. And these aren't just, adults, these are children as well, these are families. And Darren is saying, yeah, let them drown. Let them try, and if something goes wrong, don't help them. Don't help them, because it'll only encourage more to come. Now obviously, that's incredibly evil. That is just an evil viewpoint. This idea that in the short term we should sacrifice the lives of innocent people who are committing a crime that is totally non-violent. It's literally just a crime that we arbitrarily put in place to stop people from coming to the UK when we don't want them to, for whatever arbitrary reason. But it's fine for them to die if it means stopping more people from coming and saving more lives in the future. Now, it isn't really about saving more lives in the future, is it? It's not about the refugees, it's not about the asylum seekers, it's not about saving them. Because as we all know, if they can't get asylum in France, then they probably couldn't get asylum in more Eastern European countries, which means they'll end up having to go back to the horrific conditions they were living in, wherever they were before, whether it's Syria or Yemen or whatever, right? So, it's an incredibly stupid and incredibly callous attitude towards government policy towards asylum seekers, and even charitable policy towards asylum seekers. This is a charity, and they don't just help asylum seekers trying to cross the Channel, they help other people on the Channel. Super rich knobs who are out there who think they can captain their yacht and then end up falling into the ocean or getting stranded or something. they help a lot of people because it's the right thing to do. You know, I cannot believe as a society sometimes we have these debates, because it's just mind-boggling. It's like in America, right? Think about, just compare what we're talking about to America. Should we guarantee healthcare to everyone, free at the point of service, paid for through taxation? Now in the UK and in pretty much every other developed country, we say, yes, yes we should. That's obviously a good thing. Don't let people die or go into massive amounts of debt. You know? Because that's wrong. And yeah, some people might take the mick and they might come to the doctors because they're a bit paranoid, right? And they don't really need to go to the doctors. And you could say, oh, well, if they had to pay money, that would deter them, and therefore only people who really needed to come would come to the NHS, would come to the doctors, and therefore we could save more lives in the long run. But first of all, that's not how humans work. And second, it's the right thing to do. Providing healthcare to people should be free, especially in a rich country like the UK or the US, right? Just transpose that onto this issue, because it is very, very similar. We are arguing for something that is obviously immoral here. This idea that we should let people drown to stop other asylum seekers from coming to the UK. We take far fewer asylum seekers than most other developed countries, certainly most other European countries. We're a country that has so much to offer. We have so much wealth. The problem isn't asylum seekers, the problem isn't refugees, the problem isn't immigrants. The problem is that ultra wealthy people sit at the very top of society, get massive government subsidies that we pay for through taxes, and then ordinary workers get the labour value extracted from all the hard work they do to enrich the people at the very top of their companies, and then the government underfunds public services and then gradually sells them off to the highest bidder, who then keeps funding their political party. And that's how it works. It's not migrants, it's not refugees, it's not asylum seekers that are making your life worse. The people who are making your life worse are the ultra wealthy people who are hoarding all of the massive amounts of wealth that our society has, and the corrupt politicians who enable them. We need to improve legal routes of immigration and legal routes for seeking asylum. But we also shouldn't be callous and cruel and inhuman when we deal with people fleeing from the worst conditions that you can imagine. People who just want a better life. So Darren Grimes has shown his true colours, and just before we end the video, I just want to put up a wonderful image from an article where Darren says that he, well, give it a read. He's got into politics because he just wants to help fight those burning injustices. Is this how we reduce injustice in the world, Darren? Is this how we do the right thing? By letting people die, letting people drown? I don't think so.